TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcasting from Jerusalem, and in today's top stories. The IDF continues to make gains in the Gaza Strip as Israel enters into the 9th month of war against Islamist Hamas. IDF Northern Command Commander Major General Gordin orders his troops to stand at the ready for prospects of a full-intensity war with Hezbollah. The International Atomic Energy Agency Board of Governors adopts a resolution against Iran's nuclear program, demanding compliance. Today began the 9th month of the war against Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip. IDF forces are making good progress in the war-battered enclave as Islamist Hamas is seemingly losing ground and operatives in a decisive manner. And while some former senior officers seeking to make headlines are voicing criticism of the duration of the conflict, IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Agari asserted that anyone who claims that eradicating the Islamist Hamas could take less time, particularly when doing everything to avoid collateral damage, he or she are essentially promoting an illusion to the public.
We are fighting a multi-arena war with many sectors. We are fighting against Hezbollah in the north. We are busy in protecting the skies of the state from Iran, Iraq, Yemen, and we are also fighting in Gaza for 8 months. Dealing with Hamas takes time. Anyone who says otherwise is promoting an illusion to the public. Rafah is one of the most complex areas in the world and in the Middle East to contend with. There were 1.4 million residents in Rafah. The IDF demonstrated capabilities in which it evaluated 1 million citizens, which is an unprecedented event globally. We evaluated 1 million citizens, and we are now operating within the Rafah area. The primary importance of Rafah is that it constitutes the oxygen pipeline of Hamas. It has been taken care of. We are now mapping, destroying the tunnels, destroying the subterranean infrastructure. Special forces units are operating there within as part of very serious operational activity, and we will expose the activity not here in the media. We will expose it in relation to the security of our forces on the spot, and at the right time we are taking care in the Hamas battalions that are in Rafah, and it is happening, and it is good, that it is happening in a precise manner that maintains the security of our forces and also observes the complexity of Rafah, maintains the important security. Relations with Egypt maintains our international legitimacy in the world, and we will continue to show the world how we find all solutions.
While fighting throughout the Gaza Strip persists, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi visited troops of the Netzach Yehuda Battalion, which has been deployed along the northern part of the enclave to provide security to the Israeli communities along the border.
I want to talk to you about 2 tasks. The first task is protecting the communities here, and you have nearby communities here. You have a nearby city here, with a very big responsibility to protect the border area, to maintain a very stable security area, to which the enemy does not enter, no one passes through it, no one approaches the fence, and to know that when there is an attempt to penetrate, to react quickly, to react decisively, to react professionally, not to let the enemy penetrate, and also to give the residents here a great deal of security.
Turning to the IDF Central Command, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu attended a comprehensive situation assessment, after which the Israeli premier stressed that while international pressures applied on Jerusalem are seemingly immense, no pressure in the world could frustrate Jerusalem's commitment to ensure that the security status that prevailed before October 7th would be the same after the multi-sector war, which was forced upon Israel, ultimately comes to an end.
I have just held a situation assessment at Central Command. The state of Israel is in a difficult campaign on many fronts. We are fighting in the south, we are fighting the north, and we are also fighting here in Judea and Samaria. This effort is being carried out amidst complicated international pressure that is applied on us. But I can assure you one thing, what has been is not what will be. We will change this reality. I rely on our soldiers, commanders, and security services to ensure the security of Israel.
Meanwhile, on Israel's northern front, the Iranian proxy Hezbollah continues to intensify cross-border attacks against both military and civilian targets. Consequently, IDF Northern Command Commander Major General Uri Gordin proclaimed to his subordinates, quote, "When the order is given, the enemy is going to meet a strong, well-prepared army. We will not rest for a moment, and we will continue to fight boldly and with wisdom until the task is completed, restoring security and a sense of security in the north. This responsibility is clear, and it rests on our shoulders." Meanwhile, in response to the repeated successful strikes by Hezbollah's unmanned aerial vehicles against various targets throughout northern Israel, IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Agari was asked to provide answers to alleviate public concerns.
Every such incident is investigated. It was already investigated in the General Staff's situation assessment. We are advancing a number of solutions. We are dealing here with a threat close to the border at short ranges that constitutes a challenge, both in detecting it with our radars and also when it comes to intercepting it. We have shown that we know how to deal with the UAV threat from very far ranges and in large numbers, and the attack that the Iranians launched against us. We faced a very large number of drones, and they did not harm the territory of the State of Israel. In this case, we are speaking about an incident that took place near the border. We are dealing with this matter. We will find the right operational, and a response will also be given regarding the matter.
Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller was asked to comment on a report about the Biden administration, cautioning Israel to keep the war with Lebanon or any escalation limited, while also warning about Iran potentially intervening in a northern escalation.
So I'm not going to speak to private diplomatic conversations, but as I've said earlier in the week, we have been clear with the government of Israel since the immediate aftermath of October 7th that one of our top priorities as in this conflict was to see it not expand any further than it already has. And that remains the case, and that remains the subject of our diplomatic conversations, not just with Israel, but with other countries in the region. I will say that we continue to see Hezbollah taking strikes across the border, including incredibly destructive strikes. And Israel, of course, has the right to defend itself when hit by a terrorist organization. But we remain concerned about the risk of escalation and the risk that any type of escalation could further widen and broaden this conflict and get us back into the place where we were earlier in this conflict, when you saw strikes in Iraq that we have worked to try to mitigate and try to prevent from occurring. So that remains a top priority for the United States.
Miller was further asked to provide a response on the latest joint announcement by the Yemeni Houthis and Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces on launching a collaborative operation against the Israeli port of Haifa, and whether the United States had spoken to the Iraqi government about this matter.
So we have long made clear that we oppose any attacks by the various militia groups, Iranian-sponsored militia groups, against the government of Israel, and that we are prepared to help Israel defend itself against those attacks. Obviously, any kind of cooperation between them is something that would be incredibly concerning and that we would work to mitigate. So without speaking to any specific conversations regarding these attacks, it has been our general policy to press the Iraqi government to prevent attacks being launched on their soil, either against the government of Israel or against United States interests or United States troops in the region.
It is important to know that while the joint Houthi-PMF announcement of strikes against targets in the Israeli port of Haifa have been refuted by the IDF, an alarming report revealed that the Iraqi parliament passed a budget law which essentially provided more than $3.5 billion to Iraq's Iranian proxies, Popular Mobilization Forces, or Hashd al-Shaabi in Arabic, which have launched many hundreds of attacks against U.S. personnel and infrastructure, as well as the State of Israel in recent years.
We do remain concerned that individuals within the PMF are not responsive to the Iraqi commander-in-chief and engage in violent and destabilizing activities in Iraq and Syria. Attacks against U.S. and coalition service members, as well as Iraqi security service members and businesses, undermine Iraq's security and economy, and we continue to urge the Iraqi government to rein in these individuals and hold them accountable for breaking Iraqi law.
It is important to know that the International Atomic Energy Agency concluded a meeting of the Board of Governors earlier this week, during the course of which the E3, which include Germany, France, and Britain, tabled a resolution calling on Iran to work with the IAEA on a long list of outstanding issues related to its nuclear program, which the Ayatollah regime has thus far defiantly refused to do. Following its adoption, in the event that Iran fails to comply to the European resolution, which the Biden administration, after initially working to undermine its adoption, ultimately voted in favor of the resolution, Britain, France, and Germany may opt to trigger the snapback mechanism that could immediately reinvigorate all past nuclear-related sanctions on Iran without a requirement to pass any resolution at the UN Security Council, which could have been vetoed by either Russia or China. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, we would appreciate it if you'd consider making a donation, and you can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.